Hey, what's up guys? Dr. Ryan Weaver here with Apex Spinal Performance. Once again coming at you with another spinal workshop. We're getting close towards the end of the year, so we're going to have rapid fire here because next thing you know we're going to have Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I'm super excited for next year. We've got a lot of important topics still left on this year here in 2023, but today our topic is lifetime care. I find this to be a very, very important discussion because oftentimes our communities, our patients, they think they have an idea and understanding of what a chiropractor does, but there's a lot more to it than just pain management. And we're going to dive a little bit into that. We're going to get into some finances too. What do things cost? What do we spend, as Americans on healthcare? We're also going to dive into, in the long run, does it really save you some money as well? So if you are somebody who thinks chiropractic care might be expensive, or maybe you only go when you're in pain, we're going to show you some other ways that, looking at this in terms of a lifetime, how this can actually be super beneficial for your health, for your joy, for your happiness, but also save you money in the long run as well. So, lifetime care. Some things that I always start with this is, well, let's define, what is care? What is health care? And we have a humongous problem in our country alone, Americans, of what we spend on healthcare and how we think healthcare should portray or play out. So one of the studies that I referenced a lot at the beginning of the year and last year was a Duke University study that shared, we know the things that are bad for us and we do them anyway. And the conclusion of the study was the number one cause of death in our country is poorly made choices. What they found in the conclusion of that is, oftentimes we as a society, as people, look to blame others for our own health care, that it should be the doctor's problem or somebody else's problem to take care of it. And really what that found, and I love it, they didn't pull any soft landing on this, they went right for it, is you are in charge of majority of your healthcare decisions. You are in charge of what you eat, what you drink, what we do as exercise, or are we lazy, or are we sedentary. So I hope this doesn't offend you, but it's going to be pretty direct as well. So with that study in mind, one of the things I often talk about is as we age, sure, we may lose some lack of mobility, we may not be able to do everything that we used to do, but we can also preserve that for a longer time than we really think. So over time, we are going to spend money on healthcare. No ifs, ands about it. I'm going to be a little rough on this study here, referencing this because I just thought about it, but I believe something asinine like 80% of all of our healthcare expenses come in the final 2 years of our life. But some other statistics. For older adults in America, 90% of Americans, defined as an older adult, are on one prescription medication. 80% are on 2 medications. Now they skip 3 and 4 here, which I thought was funny, but 36% of older adults are on 5 medications or more. That is ridiculous. Now, are there always exceptions to what I'm about to say? Sure. But to me, that is not healthcare. If we take all of these medications, and that's just 36%. Again, who knows what 3 and 4 drugs are as well. So I have a question, and I ask, do you think that that is healthcare? Do you feel that towards the end of our life, taking a tackle box full of medications is healthcare? And my personal belief is no. I believe that that is utilizing excessive amount of pharmaceuticals to just kind of make us feel better, where we should be exercising or moving, an active lifestyle. We should be eating the right things. Now, once again, I always tell my patients, I'm not telling you to be perfect, but these are the things, when we look at how we go through our life, these things continue to compound. If we if we reinvest in our health, it'll pay dividends in the long run. Some more statistics. In 2021, the U.S. spent $4.3 trillion in healthcare. If you break that down per person, just under $13,000. Specifically, $12,000 $914 per person per year on healthcare. So, one of the other questions I get often, well, does insurance cover it? Maybe, yes, no, do they only cover certain amounts, things like that. Well, let's look at where our insurance premiums go to, because in case you haven't been paying attention, they have continued to rise premiums every single year. So our insurance, $4 trillion annually. 2/3 of that goes to the overhead and profits. 1/3 of it actually goes towards sickness, okay? So we're going to go another subsidy of that 1/3. 86% of that goes to chronic disease, which majority of chronic diseases, an extremely high amount we can actually do things to prevent. 14% of that third go to real use, and of that 14%, 4.7% is the premium there. So, the sad reality is we're going to have to pay out of pocket for some of these things. Just like the grocery primary example. Same thing for a gym membership. You know, if I had it my way, I think insurances should reimburse or pay a certain amount for those things if somebody's making healthier decisions. That's not always the case. So, I have a study here. I have done this one in the past, but if we look at, lifetime care, which I'll get to that study in just a moment, most patients come to our office for something such as a musculoskeletal complaint, headache, neck pain, low back pain. What they see throughout their care are things that improve as well across the board unanimously, regardless of whatever brought them in. Joy and happiness elevated. A high amount, energy and sleep are better. And other things such as digestion, flexibility. I just generally overall feel better. And maybe that is something that you're looking for, rather than here's a pill, here's a pill, here's a pill. That doesn't work, here's a surgery. So, I always run through this scenario. If you go to a wellness check with maybe your primary physician, they're going to check a few things. They're going to check your height and weight as soon as you walk in the door. We're going to check our blood pressure, our heart rate, our pulse ox. They're probably going to listen to your lungs, listen to your heart, maybe palpate your abdomen, maybe take some blood, eyes, ears, nose, and throat. And, I'm sure I may be forgetting a few things there, but that's got to be 90-95% of the entire exam. Rarely do we ever check our spine. The only time that I can think of is in 6th grade in school, where they made you bend down, touch your toes, and make sure you didn't have scoliosis. So we're checking all these vital needs, is what those are. We have to have those to sustain life. But the number one thing that is in charge of all of our entire body, our nervous system, our spine and brain, we never really check that. Even in a emergency CPR first aid scenario, we don't just drag people off the ground and get them then to safety, unless obviously there's an exception, there's a fire or something like that, because you have a fear of injuring whatever's injured. And the number one thing that you suspect is a spinal cord injury. So an emergency scenario is number one, but we never really think about taking care of it at all in a wellness check. I have some issues with that. And I bring this up just to challenge you, to just make you think different. It's not to get everybody all razzled up, but just think a little differently with that. Our nervous system, our brain and spinal cord are totally covered in bone. So it's armored for our protection. I always say God made a really good system, and we found a way to screw it all up as Americans, because we're really good at that. Even in utero, it's one of the first things to develop. Okay? But we never think of taking care of it. So I challenge you to think of what's your version of healthcare, and maybe write this down, because we're about to go through this example here in just a moment. But what is your version? Do you only take care of yourself when you're in pain and discomfort? Okay, well, again, I have an argument with that. Is, typically by the time you have a toothache, you end up with a root canal, not just a cavity. So shouldn't we check on our vital needs before something's broke. You know, we spend a lot of money on maintaining our vehicles and maintaining our homes. You know, our host, our body is the number one thing that we have to continue to uplift it and maintain it. So keeping that maintained through a lifetime should be a very important thing to you, and I hope it is. But let's dive into this example here. So there was a study done by an insurance company that said for patients who went to a chiropractor for chiropractic care, saved money in the long run. So if they save 40% in the long run, let's do a statistic here. All right, so we're going to math this. Let's say pick an age, and what you can do this at home, but let's say you made it to 100 years, through 100 years of life, and passed away at the age of 100. Okay, let's say you started chiropractic care at age 40. Okay, if you went on a regular basis throughout the remainder of your life, lifetime care from 40 to when you passed away at 100. All right, so we're going to do some figurative numbers here. So 100 minus 40, so that gives us, there's 60 years of care. Well, if we took those 60 years, and if we took that American average of $12,914 that they spend annually, you're going to come out to get $774,840 that you spent on healthcare. So I purely just picked some random numbers on this. I thought it was relatively probably in the ballpark if you took across the country average. Okay. Let's take your first year, second year, third year plus for chiropractic care. So let's just say there's a lot going on. Your first year, you spent $4,000. Second year, let's go $2,000, and then their year after, you spent $1,500. So again, here's $6,000. All right, so $1,500 here. So we're using 60 years. Okay, so you had year 1, year 2, so that means there's 58 years here, and that's going to give us a number of 87,000. Okay, we're going to add those, so 93,000 you spent for 60 years of chiropractic care. All right, well, if we took that 40% savings, if you went to the chiropractor first or utilized that on a regular basis, okay, that's going to save you $309,936. All right, so in terms of an ROI, you invested this, you saved here. That's a 333% return on a investment. Pretty good, pretty good. So how about the things that have nothing to do with finances or money? How about qualities of life? Okay, one of the most important questions that I ask my patient, I call it a question of truth. We get through an exam and, you know, most ask, well, what are your goals for care? To me, what's your question of truth? Why are you here? It's not just to get you out of pain, right? Yes, of course, you want to get rid of those things. But what does that take from you? Does it take away joy, right? So if we take this off of here, because that's oftentimes what we look at is a dollar sign, but what about the qualities of life, of enjoying life and living a life worth living? Is, well, joy, this is terrible handwriting, happiness, doing things with your kids, staying active. Okay, I mean, those are just quick 4, and I hear these very often. Grandkids, kids, you know, if I have lower back pain, I can't get down on the floor and play with my grandkids. Or maybe you're grumpy. Maybe you're not enjoying life. Maybe it's not what it used to be. These are the things that we really start measuring healthcare with. Because again, we're not making it out of this alive. But we should strive to, another one I just thought of. I think this is the main one. But how about being able to function independently, doing the things you want to do, not have to worry about if you drop something, how are you going to pick it up? Or how many other comorbidities you may have. But if we start investing in our health the sooner we can, typically we see this. We know the things that are good for us and the things that are also bad for us. That Duke University study showed us that, something that we should already know. But again, I bring these things up not for controversy, but to provoke you to maybe think of things a little differently. And if it doesn't make you think differently, okay. But we have to break the norm because, again, I didn't check this study, but I always reference it from a few years ago, is we spend the entire world, Americans spend half of total cost on pharmaceutical drugs, but yet we rank 33rd in the healthcare rankings. I believe maybe it was 37 now. But the math isn't mathing. So I hope, again, you learned a few things from this. Again, please like us on Facebook, YouTube, share this, comment on it. Definitely every Tuesday night you're going to get the notification of a spinal workshop. I'm really excited again about next year. We're going to dial that in a little bit more, in depth on some things. So thank you all for being on here, and I hope that you choose to live your best life, to be proactive instead of reactive, to invest in your healthcare earlier, so you can live a very pleasant, joy, happy life. Thank you all for being on here. We'll see you next time.